Good morning, good morning, good morning. My name is Marianne Hardy, and I would like to welcome you to the Triangle Center for Spiritual Living. All of you at home or wherever you are, so glad you're here with us today. Our theme for 2020 is 2020 Spiritual Vision. Our November theme is Living as Compassionate Conduits. And Rev Dusty's talk title today is Life Happens Through Me. And now I'm going to read our community purpose statement, which is our reason for being here. Our purpose is to inspire, educate, and empower individuals to experience themselves as unique and individualized expressions of God, the love intelligence that governs the universe. We are committed to not merely a theoretical understanding of our oneness and unity with God, but to consciously practice this truth in our everyday lives. Through celebration, service, study, and fellowship, we are committed to the transformation of our personal lives and to being a powerful and beneficial presence on the planet. With the energy of unconditional love, simply, we are here for God. And now just take a moment and settle in wherever you are. Get quiet. Let the sound of the bowls wash over you. And just prepare yourself for what's to come.
I invite you to begin to bring your attention back into your bodies and into your rooms, and to stay turned within as I speak a word of blessing upon our time together. Recognizing the one spirit, the one life, the one love, the one mind, the one heart, the one energy back of everything that there is, seen and unseen. I know that this power and presence lies within me and surrounds me. I know that it is that which created me out of itself in a moment of unconditional love. I know that it supports me, guides me, guards me, and loves me. And just as I know that this is my truth, I know that it is absolutely the truth for each and every volunteer here in the sanctuary this morning, each and every person on Facebook and on Zoom, and each and every person on the planet. All sentient beings. We are all divine emanations of the One, ambassadors of its presence. And it is from that place of unity that I bless our time together, truly knowing that it is already whole, perfect, and complete in the mind of God, that it flows with grace and ease from beginning to end, that it is filled with something of inspiration, something of value for each and every person. I bless all of the volunteers, Ava and Heather back in the AV booth, Marianne and Babs as practitioners and platform host, Diane for her amazing meditation, and for Cindy for the blessing that she always brings when she sings. And so I know that this service just flows, that it happens in divine right order, and that each of us are just allowing it to do so through and as each of us individually and collectively. And we simply do it by saying, "And so it is." And so it is. Amen. It is now my pleasure to welcome up to the podium licensed spiritual practitioner Barbara Kane.
Good morning, everyone. And it is my pleasure to invite up to the podium Heather Abbott, licensed spiritual practitioner Heather Abbott, to help me with the blessings of all faiths. The Triangle Center for Spiritual Living honors the diversity and threads of truth that run through all spiritual paths as represented by this ceremony. Christianity is the path of Christ consciousness, love, and forgiveness. Buddhism is the path of compassion and understanding. Judaism is the ethical path of living by spiritual law. Baha'i is the path of unity and peace. Islam is the path of the submission to the will of God, the highest calling. Confucianism is the path of deliberate tradition. Taoism is the natural way, the path of ultimate reality. Native American practice and shamanic traditions are the paths of primal spirituality. Shintoism is the path of tribal ancestry. Hinduism is the path of knowledge, action, and devotion. Science of mind and spirit is the path of the divine principle of love and law. And the heart represents the one heart, the one love, that resides at the center of all people and all beings everywhere, with no exceptions. May peace prevail on earth through the followers of all paths. And so it is. So it is. Thanks, Heather. Today's reading, is from Eric Butterworth. He says, "The great truth taught by the mystics of all ages is, life is lived from within out. This means the whole universe is concentrated at the point where you are. More than this, you are the universe expressing as you. You are the living enterprise. It forever stands behind you with its full resources. However, the fullness of this universal support comes through you and not just to you. The most profound knowledge that you can attain is that your whole existence flows inexorably from a universal process which is always from within out." And now, I'd like to ask you to join me for the invocation. Excuse me. So I recognize the universal wholeness in this moment, the true infinite spirit of light and love. That spirit, that energy, that passion, the joy with which we were all created and through which we are all connected. And I know that that spirit of love and connection and truth is in, as and through each and every person here and throughout the planet. And so from that place of unity and joy and love, I speak a blessing today on Reverend Dusty, who I know brings her beautiful, talented self and the message of love and universal truth to us all. And I know that she is a blessing and is blessed in this moment. And I know that her life is one of joy. And I also speak a blessing on Cindy Johnson as she shares her wonderful gifts and talents of song and music. And I know that this gift beautifully touches our spirit and we expand our experience of the joy of the music. And so I'm grateful for this wonderful opportunity to be a part of this service today, and so it is. And so now I'd like to introduce Cindy Johnson.
Thank you.
What if a prayer is not a plea, a desperate call with tears that fall on bended knee, but breathing out and breathing in? It's God in me that lives and breathes, my trusted friend. My life is a prayer that God is praying. My thoughts are words that God is saying. My laughter is the sound of angels playing. My life is a prayer that God is praying. What if today I had the chance to move and sway? God leads the way in my life's dance. What if I knew without a doubt, no need to fear, God's right here within, without. My life is a prayer that God is praying. My thoughts are words that God is saying. My laughter is the sound of angels playing. My life is a prayer that God is praying. My life is a prayer that God is praying.
Woo! Absolutely the perfect song and sung beautifully. Thank you so very much, Cindy. Appreciate it. Welcome to those of you who may have just jumped onto Facebook Live or Zoom. We're very grateful that you have chosen to share your morning with us. The theme for the month of November is Living as Compassionate Conduits, and my talk title is Life Happens Through Me. Now, the underlying foundational idea around today's message is that God has already given us everything. It is our responsibility or our job to awaken to it. Life is always fully supporting us at all times, and as Eric Butterworth said in the reading this morning, the fullness of this universal support comes through you and not just to you. There is a longing at the heart of the universe to flow forth into all that has been created. The invitation is to get into that flow. And when we do, we will receive all that we need or want. Lao Tzu believed that anyone who flows as life flows has solved the enigma of human existence and needs no other power. To support this underlying foundational idea, I have 3 points to share this morning. The first is the kingdom of heaven is within. We believe that there is a universal mind, spirit, intelligence that is the origin of everything. It is first cause. It is a universal energy that is back of everything, seen or unseen. We are divine, emanations of the divine. Right where we are, God is in its fullness and in its wholeness. If it is true about God, it must be true about us. The whole universe is concentrated at the point where we are. Who we are at our very core is that point. Nestled in our inner sanctuary, perhaps hidden at times from our view, but there nonetheless is the light of the divine, the seed of perfection, the kingdom of heaven. And not only is the kingdom of heaven within, but as it says in Luke 12, verse 32, it is God's good pleasure to give us the kingdom. The universal energy finds an outlet in and through everything that lives. The life that we live is the universal life expressing through and as us. It cannot work for us in any other way. Ernest Holmes says, it spreads itself over the whole universe and shouts at us from every angle, but it can only become power to us when we recognize it as power. God is an infinite point that is centered in us. All of the attributes of the infinite are within us, flowing forth through us. We are its ambassadors. We are in this flow. No, actually, we are this flow at the point where we are. We are this flow. The truth is that spiritually, we can never be disconnected. We can never be cut off from this flow. However, in Matthew 22, verse 2 through 4, there is a parable. And that parable says that the kingdom of heaven is likened to a king who gives a wedding feast for his son. The parable says that the king sends out all of his servants out all over the land to invite all of those that were invited to the feast to come, but they would not come. Again, he sent some other servants, saying, tell those that are invited, see, I have prepared my dinner. My oxen and my fatted calves have been slaughtered, and everything is ready. Come to the feast. But they paid no attention and went off, one to his farm and another to his business. Now, we have all been invited to the feast. It is our divine birthright. Everything that we could ever want or desire is available to us, but we have to show up. We have to be receptive. The bottom line is that Spirit works for us by working through us. And the power is infinite. and the power is ready, willing, and able to do so. It is not a question of its willingness, but rather a question of our own receptivity, of our own openness, of our willingness to allow the flow to flow. This brings me to my second point, which is that awareness and awakening are the keys to allowing life to happen through us. Awakening and awareness, they are the keys. We have to awaken to the truth of who and what we are, and we have to become aware of the limiting beliefs that we have that restrict the flow of life through us. We cannot fully tap into this power that flows through us without that awareness and without that awakening. They are that important. We are an integral part of the universe, of life itself. The creative flow of life created each of us, and it is forever giving to us and moving through us. We are its expression. The free flow of the creative substance within us is the continuation of the divine effort that made us in the first place. When we really know, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that we are indeed divine manifestations of the divine, and we know that life is lived from within out, then no matter what happens around us, no matter what happens in our relationships or in our lives, we can always get back into that transcendent flow. The invitation is to think about a flower. Noticing the unobstructed flow that is expressing itself as the fragrance or the beauty or the symmetry of the flower itself. This is the way that life can and will express for each of us when we are consciously in the flow. We don't walk our path alone. The universe is always walking with us. It is dynamically involved in us. Its dynamic flow is ever expressing as us. If this is the truth, which I believe that it is, then why are we not always expressing the beauty or the peace or the joy or the love or the creativity or the abundance that is the presence of the divine within us? The bottom line is that resistance to the flow begins within our own minds. It begins within our own consciousness. Our self-limiting beliefs, attitudes, thoughts, words, and deeds are poor conductors of the flow. Our resistance can look like negative thoughts or judgments, whether they are spoken out loud or whether they are just spoken in our head. But those negative thoughts and judgments about ourselves or about each other or about our lives. Our resistance can look like a belief in our separation from the divine or absorbing the race consciousness ideas about lack and limitation that abound in our world today. Our resistance can look like holding on in fear, doubt, worry, anxiety, or strain out of a sense of personal insufficiency. Our resistance can look like being unwilling to step out of our comfort zones. Resistance in any of these ways is as effective in stopping that flow, in resisting that flow, as it would be if we were to step firmly down on a garden hose. Becoming aware of our resistance, whatever it looks like, from whatever it comes from, is vitally important. Because when we become aware, that allows us to shine the light of truth upon our resistance, and it allows us to fully heal. There's another fitting parable in John 21, verses 1 through 6. Apparently, the disciples, who were mostly fishermen, were fishing in the Sea of Galilee. After a whole night of fishing, they had caught nothing. At daylight, they returned to the shore, tired and discouraged. They came upon Jesus, who suggested that they try again, only this time he suggested that they cast their nets out on the right side of the boat. Now you can imagine their reaction. These were experienced fishermen. What could a carpenter possibly know about fishing? But they decided to give it a try anyway, because what they had done the night before hadn't worked at all. So they cast out their nets as Jesus had suggested, and because of that, they were unable to fully haul in the bounty of fish that they caught. Now, the story dramatically symbolizes that it is a matter of consciousness and not the will of God or the fickle finger of fate. Wow, that was really hard to say. The fickle finger of fate. The disciples were out of the flow of life. But consciousness can be changed. It can evolve. It can be awakened. Because they consciously chose to cast their net out on the right side of the boat, that changed their whole experience. Now, this would be the same for us as turning our beliefs, thoughts, and actions from negative to positive. It would be the same for us as turning away from our belief in separation and remembering whose we are and our deep and abiding connection to everything and everyone. It would be the same for us as refraining from absorbing the race consciousness ideas of lack and limitation and knowing that we live in an abundant universe filled with unlimited resources and possibilities. It would be the same for us if we would let go of our stranglehold on our current life, even if it's not working, and being willing to step out of our comfort zones. It would be the same for us if we let go of holding on in fear, doubt, worry, anxiety, and stress out of a sense of personal insufficiency and stood instead firmly grounded in our divinely ordained power. When we are on the right side of life, we are in alignment with the flow of good. As emanations of the divine, we have all also been given divine gifts. As human beings, we often have a tendency to fight against using those divine gifts. Continually fighting against them is another form of resistance to the flow of life through us. There are many possibilities for this resistance, from fear that the calling will be too difficult, to a disbelief in the very work that we are being called to do. We may feel too small or too old or too young or too distracted by other people's ideas about what we should be doing, or too uninformed, for example. Whatever the reason, our resistance to allowing our divine gifts to flow through us has some pretty concrete consequences. These consequences could be experienced as physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual dis-ease. And in the end, our resistance may only bring about a much louder knock at the door of our consciousness, and perhaps in a way that we might not welcome. The first step on our journey of awakening is to listen to our intuition and to respond to the knocking universe that is knocking at the door of our consciousness. As we do so, the symptoms and the anxieties that have haunted us will fade into the background and will be replaced by opportunities, some of them big, some of them small, but they will all allow us to open the door and allow life to flow through us. The invitation is to do the spiritual practices that keep us aware of our connection to the divine. Take time out of each and every single day to breathe deeply, to get quiet and to be still, to pray and to meditate, to spend time out in nature, and to be grateful. The invitation is to do the inner work to discover and uncover our conscious or unconscious thoughts, beliefs, and attitudes that may be creating resistance to the flow of good in our lives. to pay attention to what we say to ourselves and others, to notice when we are continually saying, I can't, or I should, or I won't, or I'm not, or that would be great, but, because they often show up where the edges of our limitation are. They often show up where we are limiting the universe. They often show up where we are not allowing the flow of good in our lives. The third and final point is that the universe is fully supporting us at all times. Albert Einstein said, the most important decision we can make is whether we believe that we live in a friendly or a hostile universe. Every day we make countless choices. And those choices are processed through a unique filter that is ours and ours alone, our belief system. What we believe influences every single choice we make, from what we eat to how we drive to whether or not we are going to go for our dreams. If our filter is set in a self-protective mode, believing that the universe is an unfriendly place, a place that is always against us, how many times will we slam the door in the face of opportunity? How many solutions will we miss because we are mired in uncertainty and negativity? On the other hand, I believe that infinite possibilities are a given. With a core belief in a supportive universe, possibilities become probabilities. When we know that the universe has our back, we go for it. We take chances. We give it our all. We open ourselves up to the flow of life through us, and we are grateful for everything on our path. An unwavering faith in the universe is a guarantee that our good is on its way. So, as Einstein said, one of the most important questions we can ask ourselves is, do we believe that the universe is for us, or do we believe that the universe is against us? Now, this is a really important question, because the frequency of our thoughts determines the type of life that we are going to be living. It is vital for each of us to keep our vibrational thoughts in alignment with the life that we desire. Singularly focused, unwavering, always in alignment with the life that we desire. The bottom line is that the universe always provides. It always gives us what we need, always, without exception. This is a natural law, just as real as the law of gravity or the law of attraction. To ensure that the universe is set up to provide for us, the invitation is to ask for what we want, expect it, and then be willing to receive it. Once we have asked, expect it to be on its way without sabotaging it by being negative. And then the invitation is to open our arms, open our hearts, open our homes, open our bank accounts, and open our lives to make room for it. It might not always look exactly like we want or what we asked for, however, it will always be what we need. It might not always come in the time frame that we wish it would, but we will always get it when we need it. We cannot always see the whole picture, but by putting our trust and faith in the universe, we will always be cared for. If the idea that we live in a universe that is always for us, always giving to us, which is the truth, which I believe that it is, another question we can ask ourselves is, how much am I willing to receive? How much am I willing to accept? I have another fishing story for you. A young fisherman heard about this really great fishing stream, so he went there, he threw in his line, and he waited. He kept waiting, but he wasn't getting any bites, and he was starting to get pretty frustrated. Then down the river, he saw an old fisherman who was pulling in, fish after fish after fish after fish. The young man thought, geez, he must have some really great bait or something. And then he noticed that the older fellow was doing something really odd. Every time that he caught a fish, he would unhook it off the line and he would gently lay it down on the bank of the stream. And then he would measure it with a broken off ruler. Now, if the fish was bigger than the ruler, he actually threw the fish back into the stream. And if the fish was smaller than the ruler, then he would put it into his basket. The kid was wondering, what's wrong with the big fish? Do they get like really bony or something when they get big? Is there a law against keeping the big fish? So he approached the older fisherman and he said, I'm not getting the kind of fish that you are getting. In fact, I haven't caught anything yet. What kind of bait are you using, and why are you measuring the fish the way that you're measuring them? And the old fisherman replied, Sonny, I measure the fish for a good reason. You see that broken off ruler? That broken off ruler is exactly the size of the frying pan I use to cook the fish. Now, I'm imagining that those of you at home are laughing like the people here, like we would probably all laugh at any fisherman that would ever do this, but are we doing it to ourselves? The generous universe is always sending us opportunities to do more, to give more, and to become more. But we may be stopping the flow by the limitations that we have created for ourselves. Many of us have a frying pan way of looking at ourselves and the world that holds us back from creating a life that we truly love. So often, as we think about trusting the universe, we get caught up in thinking that some external force is going to swoop into our lives and save us from all of the challenges that we are experiencing. Even this can be limiting. The invitation is to remember that the universe is not outside of ourselves. We are not waiting, nor do we have to wait for anything. The universe is within us, and all that we have to do is to allow it to flow through us. Now, I don't do this very often. However, I would really like today to end with a short meditation. The meditation comes from David Spangler. And so I invite you, whether you're here in this room or whether you are at home, perhaps not if you're driving, but to please close your outer eyes and allow your attention to turn inward to the center of your being. Imagine yourself inside a dark house, dressed in a swimsuit. You are cold. You wish for warmth. You wish for light. You step outside the door of the house into the sunlight, out into nature. You go over to a lounge chair and you lie down and sunbathe. You feel the warmth and the light penetrate your being. It feels so good, no longer cold. You see a tree near you and you see how it also takes in the rays of the sun, turning the sunlight into food and energy. It's like you, a sunbather, absorbing the light and warmth. Now look at the sun and feel your being begin to expand and rise out of your scene toward the sun. You melt into the sun. You are the sun. You are radiating your light out upon the trees and the plants, on nature, shining your light onto solar panels so that people convert into energy. People sitting and absorbing your rays. Feel what it is like to give from an inexhaustible supply. Feel the difference of being the sun and being the sunbather. Feel the connection between the two. I now invite you to bring your attention back into your bodies and into your rooms, back to this place and time, and gently open your eyes. The bottom line is that there is a freer, fuller, more expansive life waiting for each and every single one of us. Are we willing to say yes to it? Are we willing to allow life to happen through us? The invitation is to choose to be a conduit for it. And as always, we always have a choice in the matter. And so it is. And so it is. So I just invite us to turn within, to allow ourselves to turn our attention to that seed of perfection, that light of the divine, the kingdom of heaven within us, turning away from the world of form and allowing ourselves to focus on the spiritual side of life. I know that I am one with this core. I know that I am one with it in ways that can never be broken, that I can never be separated from it. That not only am I connected to the flow of life, but I am the flow of life. And just as I know that this is my truth, I know that it is absolutely true for each and every person here, each and every person on Facebook and Zoom, each and every person in our beautiful, loving community, each and every sentient being on the planet. We are all ambassadors of God. Right where each and every single one of us is, there is a hologram of God in its fullness and in its wholeness. All of its attributes are our attributes. And it is our job, our pleasure, our joy to bring that forward out into the world, to allow that to flow through us. Like being the sun, allowing that inexhaustible source of light and warmth to flow through us. And it's from that place of unity that I speak these words about and for each of us today, truly knowing that we are spiritual beings having a human incarnation, that we have everything within us already to create lives that we absolutely love to live. That all of our relationships, all of our experiences are fulfilling and successful and wonderful. Because the universe always supports us. And while it might not always give us exactly what we want in exactly the time frame that we want it, we will always get what we need at the moment that we need it. And that we are always, always being cared for. Sometimes our human perceptions might say otherwise or look one way or another. But if we continue to stay in alignment with the truth of who we are, if we continue to practice our spiritual practices, if we continue to say yes to life, then everything will unfold in divine right action. And all will be well. And I'm so grateful to know this truth, so grateful to speak these words. So grateful for the power of prayer, knowing that these words are loosed into a law that only ever says yes, that my words are clothed in form even as they are spoken. And so I speak them and I release them into that law that works with mechanical regularity to clothe them. letting go and letting God be God, I invite each of us to anchor this prayer for ourselves, for each other, for the Triangle Center for Spiritual Living, for our country, the United States of America, and for the entire world. And so it is. Amen. It is now time for our conscious giving. And so I just invite everyone to take just a moment to really reflect on all of the ways that we are truly, truly abundant in our lives. And to know that as we reflect on them and as we are willing to share of some of that bounty, that we step powerfully into the flow of life, that giving and receiving are one and the same, that our gratitude for them creates more to be grateful for, that it's generative, that it invites more into our lives. I'm grateful for these gifts, however big or small, knowing that they continue to support this community, to do the work that we are doing in the world, to continue to be a beacon of light and warmth and love in the Greater Triangle area. Please repeat after me. I am grateful for all that I receive. And I'm grateful for all that I may give. And so it is. Please welcome back to her piano the awesome and the awesomely talented Cindy Johnson.
In this moment, in this place, I remember who I am, letting fear and worry fall away from me. I open my eyes and see there is only love. There is only love. Love that heals, love that sets me free. There is only love. When I lose myself, when it seems I've lost my way, when I go inside and quiet my mind, I hear Spirit gently say, there is only love. There is only love. Love that heals, love that sets me free. There is only love. And I know the voice of love. It is singing through my life. It is all I am, every part of me. It is all that I choose to be. There is only love that heals, love that sets me free. There is only, there is only love.
Thank you so much, Cindy. I just love that song, and you've done such a beautiful job with it. Thank you. Oh, so much to love, so many things to love. If anyone would like prayer, please go to our website at trianglecsl.org. On the home page, there's a button in the upper right-hand corner. Click on that button and fill in the request form. We will get that prayer and send it out to all the ministers and practitioners. And also today, please consider joining us for Let's Stay Together on Zoom immediately following the service. If you're on Zoom now, just stay where you are. If you're on Facebook Live, just jump over to Zoom. And now we're going to do affirmations, our November affirmation. This is a call and response. If you were here, I'd say stand up, but you're at home, so you don't have to. So I'll read a line, you read it back. Intention is the starting point of everything that takes place in the universe. Choice is the engine of evolution. As I consciously choose, I consciously evolve. I am committed to my own growth, to loving myself enough to be my best self. Today I choose wisely to express my authentic self in all that I do. Spirit is 100% engaged with me. It is living out its perfect life in me. I am the change I wish to see in the world, and all is well. And so it is. Oh, now, gosh, that was a great one. I'd like to invite you to stay for our closing song, and we're going to do benediction now and then the song in the video. So one more time, let's close our eyes and recognize that infinite love that is in, as, and through each of us, that we are connected powerfully, lovingly, and joyfully by this infinite intelligence and infinite life, that we live our best life right now and moving forward through our thoughts, through our actions, and with the power of Spirit. And so it is.